How's it going, guys? Kyle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool. We'll give Pat a couple of minutes to join here. Doesn't look like he's jumped on quite yet.
Yeah, it looks like we still got a couple people joining up, so I think waiting a minute or two is a good idea.
Yeah.
And guys, just like last week, or if you're new, once you join up, if you guys could just go ahead and mute yourselves, just so we don't have any audio interference while Pat or the other talking. And then once we end, we'll open it up to questions. You can unmute yourself and ask some questions or type them in the chat.
Pat, you on there, buddy? I just talked to Pat. Looks like he's on there. Pat, you good to go?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Got you now. You have video or?
Yeah, I thought it was on.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Awesome. Good stuff. So just wanted to start off by thanking everybody for joining us today. Hopefully everybody's doing well and staying in positive spirits and most importantly, staying healthy. My name is Joe Moore. I'm a managing director of Centercourt Boys Lacrosse. And today we're super excited to welcome two-time All-American professional lacrosse player and head coach at Bishop Ireton in Virginia, and my good friend, Pat Young. So Pat, thanks for taking some time out of your busy life to join us. I know you got a little one at home, so definitely appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As you mentioned, we go way back. We're good friends. And before I was, playing in college and pros, I actually looked up to Joe because he was playing at Syracuse. And growing up in New Jersey, where we came from, there wasn't a lot of guys who were going on to play Division I, especially at that level. So you guys have a really good mentor and director on your hands here.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Awesome. So yeah, so I'll also be joined by Centercourt directors, Kyle Newman, who manages our boys lacrosse program out of our Lawrence facility, and then also Nate Small, who also runs our boys lacrosse programming out of our Marlboro location, which is coming in the next few weeks here. But without further ado, just want to kind of dive in, Pat. Just talk about, obvious with the virus going around and everybody practicing social distancing. What have you been doing personally over the last few weeks, and what do you plan to do moving forward to keep yourself prepared for your return to the field?
Totally. So I think the first thing that I've been doing, first and foremost, is trying to stay in shape as much as possible. Obviously, without being able to actually play lacrosse, because being in game shape and being in good shape is totally different, because you're doing different type of movements, different type of action, different type of runs. But first and foremost, just trying to stay in shape overall. So I try and run like 3 miles at least 3 times a week. So it's usually like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I get out there and do road work. And then outside of that, I'll like shoot and do speed and strength training on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'll try and hit the park. I'm actually blessed to have a park that's wide open, and try and get out there pretty early in the morning before everybody else gets out there, and just do some shooting and speed and agility work. Just make sure my stick is sharp, because obviously, we're not really able to do much now, but hopefully this will all over be soon and we'll be back on the field. So I want to be as sharp as possible when I get out there.
Awesome. So when you get out there, is it mainly just you by yourself, or do you have a couple guys out there with you, or what does it look like? What's your
it really depends. I mean, last week it was me and 3 other guys, and we were able to get some shots up. But this week, I kind of wanted to socially distance myself a little bit more, with things getting a little bit, more unpredictable. And so I've been shooting by myself this week and doing stuff on my own. But it's a lot easier. I will say it's a lot easier, and it's a more efficient shooting session when there is more people, just because you can get passes and do different type of drills. But obviously, you've got to make do and do what you can, whether it's yourself or 3 other people. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And as I alluded to before, you're currently head coach at Bishop Ireton in Virginia. What has been your message to your guys and keeping them active and prepared for hopefully a return to the field this spring?
Yeah. So up until yesterday, actually, school was not canceled. So yesterday, Bishop Ireton is in the diocese, so the school was canceled, and so that's essentially the end of our season. But up until then, I was telling guys, that hopefully we'll get back out there. So although this will be a maybe 2-week to a month-long thing, at the end of that time, we need to be as sharp as ready as possible. Like I said before. So I was sending them, I had a wall bar routine that they were doing 3 days a week. And then I also had our strength and conditioning coach videotaping and sending them different home workouts that they could do, so that they could stay in shape. The biggest thing is like, even if we're not playing in the spring, I'm sure as lacrosse players, you guys know, we've got summer ball coming up, we've got fall ball coming up, and then there's winter after that. And like, it's right back into this thing. So this isn't necessarily a time to just sit back and be like, all right, yeah, like season's over, we're good. Like, this is actually a time, and it's a test to see how much you personally are willing to put into this craft and this game that we call lacrosse, because it's really just you versus yourself at this point. And the amount of work that you're willing to put in is going to determine the amount that you distance yourself from your teammates or opponents.
Absolutely, and definitely sorry to hear about your season getting canceled. That's a tough.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. It's tough. I mean, it's tough for me, obviously, because I love it, but I really feel for the seniors. Like, I feel like we had a state championship caliber team. We had some really, really talented kids, and we were 2-0, and then they just told us we couldn't play. So it was tough, but it is what it is, and trying to get them back together for one last hurrah. But we'll see how that goes.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, for us up here, to my knowledge, I know, being head coach at Princeton Day School, our season is still, we're hopeful to return to the field this spring.
Right.
I think, kind of as you mentioned, like the the playing field is kind of neutral across the board now. We're all facing this together, and it's a matter right now of who's going to take it upon themselves to prepare personally day in, day out, and in hopes to get back on the field this spring. So, point being, stay active and stay in shape.
100%. This isn't so. What I told my team is this isn't time off. This is time away.
Yeah.
Period.
That's a good point. Awesome. Cool. So I'll pass things off now to Coach Nate, who's our director at Marlboro, our Marlboro location. I know Coach Nate has a couple of questions he wants to throw at you as well. Nate?
Hey, Pat. How you doing, man? Thanks again for doing this. It's nice to meet you. I'm a guy who's from Maryland, so I'm a big Terps fan. So go Terps.
Go Terps.
Yeah. So I have two questions. My main one is, as a player, obviously, like you're somebody who's played at a high level. You played Division I lacrosse. You're currently a pro player. My question is, what sets you apart? What was the skill set that sort of got you recognized in the strengths of your game? Like what's if you had to pick one, what's your best strength as a lacrosse player? And then on the counter to that, what would you say is your biggest weakness as a lacrosse player and something you've had to work on throughout college and even as a pro to constantly improve your game? Because as a player, I know it's never you've reached that spot and now you're done. You're always got to improve on something. So these guys would probably love to hear sort of like those two parts of your game.
Yeah. So that's a great question. Thank you for that question. So I'd say the first part of it to answer with the strength is I've always been overall, I'm an athlete. Like my first love is football. I still love football more than I love lacrosse. I just happen to play lacrosse. I always play basketball, soccer, like all those things. So I've been able to create space. Like even when I was younger, I remember playing tag and being like, oh, you're not going to touch me. And just being able to like get away from people. And so when I brought that to the game of lacrosse or my game of lacrosse and being able to create space at the point of attack, meaning like one-on-one with a defender, I'm going to beat the person in front of me. I was, and I feel like I still am one of the best at that. With that being said, it was almost, and this kind of, this transitioning to the second part of your question, it was almost guaranteed that I was going to go right? Like I had a super strong right hand. My left hand was, up until I would say I got to college, my left hand was kind of like non-existent. Like I could throw and catch with my left hand, but I would never actually use it. And obviously as a lacrosse player, you always hear your coaches say, hey, you need to be able to use both hands. You need to be able to go to your left, right, vice versa, whatever it is. And it wasn't until I really started getting good with my left hand that my game got to the next level. So when I went to Maryland, you guys may know this guy. His name is Isaiah Davis Allen. He's a short stick D midi. He's really, really good. He plays for the Philadelphia Wings and the Bayhawks now. We would match up every day in practice, and he would force me to my left. And like at first, like I couldn't really go to my left. Like, you know, I could, like I said, I could throw and catch. I could kind of do it. But he forced me to go to my left every day. And I started working on it outside of practice. I would hit the wall. I would shoot lefty during the summer. Like even, 2 summers ago, when I would coach during the summer, I would only use my left hand. So I just got more comfortable with it. And over time, without realizing it, my left has actually become just as good, if not better than my right hand. And so that has opened up the game even more for me because I can go both ways. It's simple, but it means a lot. And it sounds redundant because I'm sure kids have heard you've got to be able to go both ways, but it truly does open up your game as an offensive player so much more because you're no longer one dimensional.
Yeah. I guess another part of that would be is something I always tell players is using that offhand and being able to, even if you're not a great shooter yet with your hand, or even not even a great passer with your hand, that defender who's across from you doesn't necessarily know that. So if you can be comfortable making that right to left split dodge, if you beat a guy to your left, that's going to actually open up getting back to your strong hand and further down the road as you work on improving that left, getting better at shooting and everything. So even though you're not a great shooter yet, work on that and you'll build up into being a better lefty player. But being able to go to that offhand is going to open up your strong hand and give you opportunities to get back to your strong hand.
Yeah, and one point and kind of tailgating on that is the best time to work on your offhand is during practice. Like shooting on your own using your offhand, yeah, that's good. But practice is more similar to a game-like situation. Your hands aren't free. So if you're working on your offhand with pressure on your hands, it's a lot better, and you'll see a lot more improvement more quickly.
Yeah, and then my second question is a little bit more straightforward. So we had a couple guys ask about shooting routines, because last week it sort of covered the wall ball aspect.
Yeah.
I'd say, what's your go-to shooting routine, especially if you're on your own right now? Like, what do you work on specifically in your shooting?
Yeah. So first thing I do, I always start off with the fly swatter drill. Joe has seen me do this before. It's fairly simple. You put the balls a little bit on the outsides of the pipe, so almost kind of where the island is, 5 and 5, maybe a little bit lower. But you want to be at a severe angle so that if you shoot the ball sidearm, you're going to miss the cage, right? So you stand there with a pile of balls, one-handed at first, right? I start close, just try and hit that backside pipe, shoot about 10 balls, and then I'll use my left hand, and then I'll go with two hands, right? So I start in close, just getting warm-up reps. I call them muscle memory reps. And then I'll move away, like probably about no further than 10 yards away from the cage, and I'll do some slight step downs, lefty, righty. And then I'll choose what I'm working on that day. So if it's a split into my shot on the run, or if it's a hitch day, or if it's a up the hash day, I'll do those certain drills. And I bring 10 balls out when I shoot. The reason why I do that is because if I have 150 balls, most likely I'm not going to shoot every ball like I care about it, because I've got 150 balls, and if I lose one, it's like, okay, I've got 149 more. But if I bring 10 balls out and I say, okay, I've got to go hard for 10 reps, I know that I'm pushing myself for those 10 reps as hard as I can go. So I'm not out here just wing dinging it around, shooting however I want to go. I've got 10 balls. I put them in 10 places. It's like, okay, get 10 good reps. Okay, go to the next one. And by the end of my workouts, because of how hard I push myself, I'm sweating. Like, I burn a lot of calories, and I get like a good workout out of it. But I've got a ton of different drills that I do. But most specifically, like I said, that fly swatter drill is something that I always warm up with, just to get my shooting muscles going. And then one of my favorite drills is it's called the hot spot drill. So you put the balls kind of in an arc in four different places around the goal, with 4 balls at each spot, and you try and hit each corner from each spot. So it's kind of an accuracy drill, but you're working on shooting from different angles on the field.
That's awesome. Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I'd say the biggest takeaway for me, just hearing that, is really valuing each rep, right? Like, every single shot that you take is an opportunity to get a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and actually pass things off to Kyle now. He's got a couple questions for you as well. Thanks again, Pat.
Real quick before we pass off to Kyle, I just want to say, for our defensemen, so I was a D guy growing up, and I know one way that I tried to develop my game and kind of develop my just capabilities on the field was taking drills like Pat just said, and talking to my offensive buddies and stealing their drills on the offensive side of the ball and trying to do them with my long stick, and then translating that over to the field. As a long stick midi myself, being able to transition, which is something that we talked about in our last webinar, but then also, more importantly, being able to just put the ball in the back of the net. It doesn't matter what kind of stick you have in your hands. If you can score goals, you're going to be valuable to your team. So for our defensive guys, taking that stuff that Pat's talking about right now and applying it to your game is one way that you guys can develop your game and make yourself more valuable to your program and your coach. So, but we'll pass things off to Kyle, let him dive in. He's a D guy too, so it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say.
All right.
Thank you guys. Pat, once again, thanks for being here, man. Definitely appreciate it. Definitely value having you here. Like Joe said, I'm a D guy myself. But regardless of that, for anyone that's kind of a pull out there, just getting out and working on your stick work, working on just developing your fundamentals, whatever stick you use, it's always going to translate. That's not time wasted. So even if you're going to mess around and stuff like that, like, as long as you are doing something productive, you guys are always getting something out of it. But Pat, some of the questions that I have for you today, kind of spinning off, a little bit of what you've already kind of touched on. I wanted to know your absolute favorite drill. So the most fun drill that you do, improve in the off season, that players can do by themselves in this downtime to kind of just get them out there, have them having fun and enjoying themselves, and just being able to do it by themselves.
So it would definitely be that hotspot drill. It's almost like if you can imagine the NBA 3-point contest. That's basically what it is, except I do 4 spots instead of 5. And then, like I said, you try and hit each corner. So you go bottom left, top right, bottom right. And you kind of just see what percentage you would get from there. You're also getting a lot of shots because it's four shots at four different spots. So it's 16 shots right there. Then you can go from there. But another one that I really like, that if you don't have a goal necessarily, all you need is a wall, is 2-ball wall ball. It sounds a lot easier than it is until you get out there and try it. You've got to throw a ball out there and then start playing wall ball with two balls at the same time. It's really tough, but if you can start to get the hang of it, that means you have a good stick. So that's something that if you don't have a goal, if you have a wall and 2 balls, that's all you necessarily need.
Awesome.
And it's really fun. It is fun once you get the hang of it. It's tough at first.
Fair enough. Sorry, as long as we're pushing ourselves, that's what we always tell our players. Another question I have for you is something that we kind of drill across our players all the time, is just always be working on our fundamentals. We try to tell them that no matter what age or anything like that, no matter where you are in your game, it's always important. So next question is, being such a high caliber player yourself, in your opinion, do you believe that doing fundamental workouts such as wall ball, watching lacrosse on TV and things like that is still important no matter what level of game that you went to? So obviously playing lacrosse throughout your life, were you always doing that throughout every step of your way?
100%. So I guess it doesn't even necessarily have to do with me. It's just it's what great people do. So like, it doesn't necessarily matter what you do. You have to put time and effort into it every single day. So if you let's take Kobe Bryant, for example, like, rest in peace. But like, in all of his interviews, all I heard him say was like, yo, I got up at 4 a.m. to work out. I got up in the middle of the day at noon to work out. And then I got up and worked out at 8 p.m. as well. And simply, that's just putting work in, whether that's watching film, getting rehab, putting up shots. For me specifically, like, I like to do 2-a-days. So like, I'll wake up in the morning, get a workout in, and then and later in the day, like, do my shooting, so that, I just know that I'm putting work in. And in terms of me doing that for a long time, like, I can remember in high school, I was probably one of the only kids that would like get up in the morning and work out on my own. Like, obviously we had practice and team lifts and stuff like that, but I was always self-motivated to like try and do it myself and put in more work than everybody else, because I knew that opportunities come few and far between. And I had an opportunity, and the only way that to make good on it was to leave no doubt. And the way that you do that is just by putting in work. And so with that being said, I know in the back of my mind that there's a high schooler out there right now that wants to be where I am one day. And so I have to keep putting in work, because if I get complacent, I'm like, yeah, I'm a pro, I'm good, then I'm going to stay at this level, and he's just going to continuously, and one day he's going to be here and I'm still going to be here, right? And then what happens? But if I'm a pro and I'm still putting in that work, there's just absolutely no way he's ever going to get there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. One of my favorite quotes of all time is, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So I believe you touched on that pretty incredibly. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last one I have for you is kind of a fun question. Just kind of through your experience, throughout your years of playing, what was the most fun team to play with and why?
That's a good one. I've got 2. So the first one was my sophomore year in high school. I went to a school in Virginia called Christ Church School. And that was my first year there. I had just transferred from Petty School, which is in New Jersey. Some of you guys may be familiar with it. So I didn't necessarily know anybody, but we had a lot of characters on our team. And we had a bunch of guys who, like I said earlier, were just athletes. They played different sports. So like we had a couple soccer players just playing D-Midi, and I'm pretty sure we had like a basketball player as our backup goalie. But they all brought character to the team. And we ended up winning a state championship just because of the chemistry and just having everybody like positive energy, like picking everybody up, and nobody was worried about necessarily the individual glory. They were just worried about team, family, like having fun together. There wasn't anybody who was like, oh, I'm the guy, like I'm really good at lacrosse, so give me the ball. It was just like, hey, we're just here to win and have a good time. And we ended up winning a state champion. That was the first state championship. So that was an awesome team. And then the second one was another team that had a ton of character on it. Was the 2017 University of Maryland team that I was on. So it was like me, Matt Rambo, Colin Heacock, Dylan Maltz, Kyle Bernlord, a ton of guys that are playing professionally now. That was just a bunch of fun because obviously we went to the national championship, weren't able to pull it off, but it was just a very memorable season. And some of those guys are, some of my best friends till this day, talk on a daily basis. So just a great overall time there.
Cool. Thank you for that. Just going to bounce off real quick. We had a question in the chat real quick. My man Jay asked, what's the best way to gain more stamina? So I guess just a quick workout that you do to kind of increase your stamina.
Jump rope.
Oh,
jump rope is huge. My dad used to like make me jump rope when I was younger in the driveway, and I used to hate it, and I never really understood why. But as an athlete, jump roping is huge for a couple reasons. A, it builds stamina. So if you try and jump rope for 3 minutes straight, I promise you'll be gassed afterwards. So that's what I still to this day, like I've got a jump rope in my backpack everywhere I go. Like that's my warm up, and in between sets or whatever, I jump rope for 3 minutes. So jump rope is like the number one thing for me. It's also really good for your timing and rhythm as a player, just like knowing when your feet are going to hit the ground and body control, all of that good stuff. So jump rope is huge. And if you get good enough to the point where you can go for 3 minutes without being gassed, go for 5, keep it up.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Cool. So, I think just one thing I wanted to kind of tag on to what Pat said. You heard him talk about character with his 2 favorite teams. And, I can talk really briefly about my time at Syracuse. And I can tell you, when I was a freshman there and we won a national championship, that team had a ton of character and had a ton of characters on the team. I think what that translates to is just us having fun. And I think the teams that have the most fun on the field and can actually, fully enjoy themselves on the field playing the game are the teams that find the most success. It sounds like Pat on those 2 teams, you guys were just straight up having fun on the field and enjoying each other's company. And I think that's, really important for players to have in them when they're playing the game, but then also for coaches that might be tuning in right now, for you guys to be able to create that fun atmosphere for your players. I know it's something I always try to do. And if you can do it, I think your players will appreciate it and you'll see the results on the field long term. So I have a similar question. Last question for you, Pat, from us. What is your favorite lacrosse memory? It can be from any time, from the first time you picked up the stick to this morning. What's your favorite memory ever?
Favorite lacrosse memory ever. There is so many. That is so hard because, obviously I've been playing for freaking 15 years now. I'm gonna do a cop-out answer. I'm gonna go with actually it's not a cop-out answer because it really was memorable. Playing in the PLL this summer at Gillette Stadium, like the first ever PLL game. And having my mom and my wife on the sideline, and that was huge for me just because as a kid, you know, some of these kids' age, I dreamed of filling stadiums and playing professional sports, and I did it, you know, and that was pretty cool for me. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So it looks like we have one other question from the audience. What are some good lefty drills to work on in a backyard or a basement?
First thing is do everything lefty, and I'm not talking about lacrosse wise. Open doors lefty, brush your teeth lefty, drink lefty, try and eat lefty. Do everything left-handed, because it's just simply like hand-eye muscle, what's it called, muscle memory, like all that stuff, like getting used to doing something with your left hand. And then the second thing in terms of a backyard or basement, a good lefty drill is the fly swatter drill that I was talking about, because it focuses on that lefty over the top motion. And if you can get it one-handed, that bottom hand, your right hand, is just a guide hand, right? So really trying, or just throwing the ball lefty one-handed, because you have to be able to do it with your left hand. If you keep trying to do it with your right hand on the stick, you'll never truly understand how to get that mechanic going. Let me think. Lefty in a basement or backyard? You've got me stumped there.
I think you gave them a lot to work on, doing everything with their left hand. That's a good.
Yeah, no, I mean, someone told me that though, and then I did it, and it was like, whoa, it made a difference. Because think about it, like if you never do something with your left hand and then you try and put your stick in it, it's like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. Even brushing your teeth with your left hand is hard enough.
Telling you, bro.
A big thing that we've been kind of touching on, especially with just being indoors and everything like that. For anyone that's listening, juggling is super, super helpful. So I tried to in college. I kind of got away from it just because I got sidetracked and was doing other things. But like as I progressed through juggling, you know, do two balls, one hand, things like that. As you progress through juggling, we have a ton of time on our hands and everything. Could be 3 lacrosse balls, 3 tennis balls, 3 whatever. It could be anything that you want. But go on YouTube, throw it in YouTube, throw it in the search link, and just learn. Try to teach yourself how to juggle, and it'll definitely help develop some of that muscle memory.
I agree 100%.
Pat, we got a good question in the chat for offensive purposes. Matt Mullen wants to know: should I try to get to 5-5 in a game, or is it just good for practicing?
It's great. It's great, man. Use that thing. I mean, you can even, I'm going to endorse it, but as a defender, Joe can probably attest to this. It's tough when an offensive player gets to 5-5 with space, because there is so much you can do there. And I'm sure you guys have heard them all, but you can do the question mark, you can do the rocker step, you can do the inside roll, or you can just come straight in over the top and shoot that thing. But you have to know how to use those moves. So yes, it's good for practicing, but it's better when you can take what you're practicing and put it into the game. But yes, overall, use 5-5.
Yeah, from a defensive standpoint, we're trying to do everything to keep our guy from getting to 5-5. That's really the last place we want our guy to get to, because that's a spot where they have a really good angle at a shot, and they're just honestly really close to the goal. So chances are they're going to get a quality shot off from there. We'll take one last question here. What is your favorite in-game move?
I like to for me specifically, I'm a bigger guy, so I'm a downhill, what is known as a downhill dodger. So I like to be the last guy out of the box, and catch the ball coming from up top, and be able to sweep to my right. So I guess we would have to be shooting to the left, and I come out of the box and go sweep to my right. No moves involved, just get to my right hand and shoot that thing on the run. That's what comes naturally to me. I've scored probably 80% of my goals that way. And it's easy. So yeah.
Good to know.
I may give a little shimmy shake, like a little stutter step, left to right split there, but for the most part, I catch it righty, get downhill, try and get that shot off.
Good to know next time I match up against you.
Yeah, summer ball.
All right, this is actually the last question. I think this is a good one because it kind of pulls on your experience as a coach in your current role. What's your best advice for a freshman in high school who is looking to have a chance to play in college?
Don't worry about college right now. Don't get caught up in, obviously it's great to have goals and dreams and aspirations, but you're a freshman in high school and college is 4 years away. So what you have to do is worry about bettering yourself right now. By bettering yourself, I mean making sure your academics are straight, because you can't go play in college if you have bad grades. That's the number one thing that kids get messed up, is like, oh, I want to go play in school. Then like kids don't realize that the number one question that coaches ask me when they want to recruit a kid is, what do his grades look like? And if a kid's got a 2.5 or 2.6 or 2.7 or whatever it is, a lot of these schools won't recruit a kid. So better yourself by getting good grades, making sure that your skills are college at the are college level progression, if that makes sense. So like you can't be thinking about playing in college if you still can't catch and throw, or don't have a high level IQ, or don't have the level of IQ of all the rest of your teammates. And then that leads me to my third thing, is identify your weaknesses. So it's okay to not be as good as your teammates in certain things, but make sure that you're working on them. Because if you're just focused on the end goal and not bettering yourself in the meantime, you're going to miss a lot in that middle gap. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I can also, just chime off of that as a private school head coach as well, and just say, I think you hit the nail on the head with your opening, statement. Just focus on yourself. Don't worry about the recruiting process. There's a ton of pressure that comes with that whole process, and it's not something that you need to worry about in your first year in high school. So I think that's a good answer.
Yeah, that's more of like a sophomore, junior, senior year thing. Freshman year. And I can attest to this. Like I said, I was at Petty my freshman year. My goal, my dream has always been to go play at, a Division I school. And I was focused on doing that. So, I made varsity my freshman year, but my grades were terrible. And so I ended up having to transfer schools, get my grades together, and eventually, went on to play Division I. But with that being said, I was focused on the big instead of the little.
Cool. All right, awesome. If you guys have any additional questions, please feel free to shoot them over to Pat on our Instagram page. There was a post, I think it went up yesterday, highlighting today's webinar. If you guys have questions, you can shoot them there. Hopefully Pat can find some time to answer your questions there. But Pat, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you taking some time out to chat with us. Again, I know you have a little one at home, so time is valuable right now for you. But, to everybody else that's tuning in, appreciate your time. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, stays active, and, jump on YouTube, watch Lacrosse to pass the time, and, obviously keep your head in the books. Most importantly.
Speaking of, I put out training videos every once in a while with drills and stuff like that. So if you're on Instagram, follow me at Pat Young Training. You can see, like I said, different lacrosse drills, training drills, speed and agility drills, all that different type of stuff. That's at Pat Young Training. So, Joe, thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. Kyle, Nate, appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks so much.
See you guys.
See you later, guys.